Hey everyone, it's Castle of Castle Does, doing his usual thing. Got some Subnautica this time. Yeah, it's not Project Stray. Holy shit, it's not the same thing. It's like something different. You know what though? I just haven't really been recording. Well, I haven't been putting the videos together. I actually do have like a ton of recordings. I have like 11 gigs worth of videos of working on Subnautica. I just haven't compiled them. And I'm not sure what to do about that because most of that footage is actually before I completely redone the entire caves. So to like be showing something, it'd be like watching the Titanic take sail, you know. I have to say though, the new version of these caves, big improvement. It's right now in process. I'm art processing. I'm in the middle of processing the art. Um, I kind of think that this is the direction I want to take it. I might have to make sure that I this again. I was trying to glitch out the lighting. So there's this really dumb thing that I've been taking advantage of, where the lighting will stick if I like load and unload it, and then reload the scene over and over again while I have um, the ambient atmosphere volume already selected. So like what it'll do is like it eventually glitches and it just stays always selected. So I can actually work on the environment without it being daylight because I'm in a cave and the ambient volume is like it doesn't match. Like it's supposed to be dark and 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 scary because it's a cave. Well, you know, scary with that kind of a voice. Scary. That's not very scary, but actually scary because you feel like you're gonna get eaten alive because this cave is so much bigger, and it really is. Like this cave is massive. So the major difference between the old cave and the new cave is that the new cave functions more like uh, the other areas in the game in that it's a big, continuous, open space. Here, let me show you. So here you go. So like this is the one corner right now that uh, I'm applying all of the art to, and I plan to get it all out. Now this is just one section of the cave, but if you remember before, you've seen the original versions of this, the caves would be like, there would be like one section, like over here, like a hallway, and then like a room, and then a hallway. You see how it's different now? Is that it's one big room, and then there's like lots of different areas and places to explore and things like that. Uh, this area doesn't have the art in place, so I'm still kind of feeling things out and like how I want to get all the new stuff together and just have it kind of looking as pretty as possible. The only reason why I'm so far behind at this point is because I've completely dumped the original caves. Dumped them. They weren't good enough. Every time I watch people play, they would get lost or stuck, and this solves a lot of those problems. So I decided that was the best course of action is just start over. Make sure that I do it right this time. And I knew it was gonna end up being problematic. That's just how these caves end up being, you know, like if there's no way to navigate a dungeon, people are gonna get lost in the dungeon, right? There's no way, there's no two ways around it. So yeah, that's currently what I'm working on right now, and I think it's a huge improvement. And once I get the art here, I think people will have a much more interesting and much more fun time working in these caves, or not working, playing in these caves. So I just got to make sure that the spaces are nice and open. It's easier to navigate. There's like landmarks and cool things for you to see, just kind of spread all over. And so you'll be able to actually explore the unarted caves in the next patch. Everything's in place if it's not already up there now. So I figure I'll talk a little bit about some some things that have been going on with my YouTube channel, and uh, personal projects. And you might notice that I've started posting a little bit more regularly uh, about uh, even just random stuff, um, especially on my Sue. I'm using my Sue right now as my blogging page because it just kind of makes sense actually to do that. Like just sort of blog on that. It has really good it's like 90% return on traffic and stuff like that. It's like it almost seems quasi just as important to have a really flourishing Sue account as it would be to have like a YouTube account. In fact, I'd almost wonder if I was to pull in the same traffic on Sue, would I be making even more money than uh, YouTube channel is? Now, let's keep in mind here, I'm not exactly making any money, like um, talking like a penny or something for some of these videos. It's ridiculous. That's I don't know. But to me, for some reason, it kind of makes me happy when I see that penny or whatever, because it's like a penny more. I don't know. It's like playing a video game in some ways. It's kind of interesting. I kind of wish that I was a little bit more prolific in general and playing um, more games. And I guess that's kind of a neat thing because it's sort of like a game that I always end up playing. So that ends up being like a on that note, bringing that up, playing games actually seems to be like my biggest weakness is that I'll I'll not play enough games, even though I end up working on them. The time I spend working on games versus the time I spend playing them is like ridiculous. I mean, you can look at like my Steam account and like see how much time I'll log in. I probably like if a game has an editor, you'll see like hundreds of hours. Like the only exception was probably like Skyrim or maybe an MMO like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14 or something like that, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, there's definitely some extra hours being logged in on those games. I wonder if the textures are really that textile density makes me nervous. I feel a little bit like we should up-res that. You know, better to just get it in places and get it in place and update it later. Even still, actually, a lot of people have commented on the prettiness of Subnautica and say Subnautica is probably one of the prettier Unity games in existence, which is pretty amazing. Or is it? I don't know. Like I never know what to think. I always been I always tend to gravitate more towards the higher profile engines like Unreal and stuff like that. So I've never really explored Unity that much. I mean, I have, and I get it. I know what Unity is about and what it's good at and everything like that. But just I'm so much more familiar playing and shipping games and working on stuff in Unreal, even idtech, even any of that stuff. A lot of those things are very inaccessible these days, though. But Unreal 4 is just absolutely amazing right now. Like it's kind of funny because I have this one project that I'm working on in Unreal 4, and I have to say, like, Unreal 4 has done nothing but astound me as an old school developer. I have not felt anything but just pure astoundment. It continuously surprises me. The tech is just that good, and they're giving it away for free, and they're like doing all this stuff that they don't even have to. They're going to own that space even if they weren't giving it away for free. They're giving away these grants for like $50,000 grants if you can show them a game that's cool that you worked on within Unreal 4. With the, wow, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I was working on Project Stray before I even heard about this stuff. It's like one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I was catching a wave that didn't even get a chance to get started. But the blueprints and everything like that have been more empowering than anything that I have uh, worked with in the past before. Now I understand that a lot of the core features that make Unreal 4 really good were things that kind of started in Unity, like the prefabbing system and things of that nature. And yeah, yeah, take those ideas. That's uh that's a really good thing to have is the ability to combine objects and make them behave certain ways, and that's the sort of blueprints and things like that. But a visual scripting language like Kismet. See, I tried to make a game in only Kismet in the past, and it was called Pitter Pat, and it was okay. Like the thing is that it ended up pushing things too far, and I ended up spending more time fighting with Kismet than actually making content. So I ended up just kind of scrapping it, letting it kind of fall to the wayside. But basically, all it was is you're this like cat girl who's like pushing balls of yarn into down like paths and using the physics engine, and basically like the ball yarn would like activate a button, you'd press a button, another ball yarn would like roll in a different direction. You'd have to like make sure that you remove a wall or step on a little thing, and it was really easy with Kismet. That would be a total joke to do now. I mean, I ended up going with a first person shooter instead of just trying to make Bitter Pat again, but my goodness, the tech is just astounding. Uh, in every way, shape, and form that I can see. I'm really beside myself. And now they're adding like all this extra functionality. You know, uh, well, I mean they've already added all this extra functionality, and it's kind of amusing too because a lot of the things that are troublesome right now, but like just like a couple extra steps that I have to take in Unity while working on Subnautica is stuff that would be just I don't even think these would be problems. They would be like some afterthought in Unreal 4 for me. Yeah, it's really really is just an amazing tool set. And that's one of the other things too about that is that this amazing tool set with Unreal. Um, I feel a little bit like it's changing the industry. It's going to have a really big effect on the game industry in general. Now, I know this is a little strange and it's way presumptuous at this point in time, but the progress that I've made on my first-person shooter so far, Project Stray, I don't know if you've seen the other videos, but in Project Stray, I'm pretty much solo designing a first-person shooter myself with, and it's way further along than I could have done in any reasonable amount of time while working on, with any other tool set. I've got um, a lot of stuff, and I've also like learned some new things. I keep learning new stuff, and then it just completely breaks down new walls. And like, it's long left Kismet in any way, shape, or form as being even a reasonable comparison. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how 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 much better this new tool set is. So so with that said, um, right now I'm still a noob, but when it comes to working with the blueprints. With that said, I'm the extra progress that I've made solo right now, in the hands of a team. If I had if I had four people working under me right now, like if I had uh, a group like with funding and things of that nature, this could actually be a pretty robust game. Like not just some bullshit FPS arena shooter that, but actually could hold a lot more potential And with that, there's sort of an interesting situation here because I don't know if maybe I'm sort of looking at this in a weird light or what, but I not only do I feel like Unreal is going to have a massive effect on the game industry in general, but I kind of feel a little bit like it's gonna result in some problems for AAA developers who are trying to stay ahead of the pack. These guys are going to be competing all of a sudden with small teams, and I know, AAA development teams have maybe 200 people, and I'm talking like four. Obviously, the AAA developers are always going to be ahead, but uh, and the biggest weakness of a AAA developer is that it's really difficult to make decisions. Pretty much everything in Project Stray is something that I probably would have been laughed at while working at a bigger company for even suggestion. No health pickups? I don't even know how. Like, you know, like um it's like Street Fighter. Why don't we just make something like Call of Duty? It would have been discussed. It would have been like 20,000 meetings to make another Call of Duty. It would start off as this like really cool fighting game thing. Like pretty much every design decision, I'm kind of snickering in the back of my own head. Yeah, this never would have went down. Like I couldn't even convince maybe even a small team to uh to to try out bullet time in an arena first person shooter. Oh, it's just gonna be two people shooting at each other in slow motion. It's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be interesting. And I'm like, fuck it, wee, and I just did it. So, um, and nobody can compete. Nobody can compete with the sheer development power that comes with being able to create enough like assets. Just that groundwork of just getting like 200 guns into the game or some shit, or like characters with totally dynamic, like they could have like 15 different looks to them, and that sheer power of just having a massive team. Like when a AAA development house knows what it wants to do, it becomes a juggernaut, and there's just nothing can stop that. Well, like once that shit gets into motion, the problem is like one, not being not continually moving in that same vector, and two, uh, being able to stop. you know, so like so those sort of weaknesses. But what's going on here, I'm kind of noticing, is that um, like I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this. Okay, so like, what does it look like in my resume if I design an entire first-person shooter? Let's say I'm applying for a job to just be a level designer, and in my resume it shows that I made an entire game myself. Is that something that I should even show? Is it something like, oh well, in your resume here it says you don't really need us? Uh, what's going on? What is this situation? Like, okay, all right, let me try to explain this. I don't know. I just feel like I feel a lot like the AAA development houses are gonna start feeling a little bit of a pinch when a team of four guys can almost make a game that a little first-person shooter or something that sort of borders on the level of quality that these big companies are trying to do. And I know there's always going to be these really big Destinies and Call of Duties and things like that, but gameplay wise, these games are not that complicated. Asset wise, they're ridiculous. You can't even begin to try to create the number of unique bad guys and number of unique, because the teams are really big. However, a gun only shoots so many different ways. um, you know, you can only have so many Call of Duties where before they start feeling like the same game being rehashed over and over again. You can only have like so many. You have like core archetypes about how a gun can actually behave, and you have like it's not a very big list. I mean, it's manageable for a small team. It's not something that's completely untouchable in terms of just raw gameplay. Like if you're ignoring the sheer number of different assets, if you're ignoring the the uh the incredible like number of unique aspects, like the different areas that you can explore. If you're just talking about like total quality over quantity, a small team actually can compete with a larger developer. So when you have tools like this where all of a sudden, and I don't know how this is going to play out yet, but when you have tools like Unreal 4, the blueprint system and a team of like 4 guys that don't even know how to program are like able to build an entire game themselves, um, how is that going to affect the bigger companies? Like for one, a lot of those guys in the bigger companies may actually decide, fuck you, I'm just going to make my own game, right? So what is this going to be, like a retention thing? Like, oh well, there's no security in that. Well, there never really was in being an indie developer, but it's getting easier now. It's getting easier now to make your game, and the easier it continues to get, the less people these bigger companies are going to need. So you're going to end up having this sort of situation where, I don't know, like, I'm not saying that these big companies are going to go away. I'm going to say that a lot of people are probably going to lose their jobs. And it's going to be a direct result of this wave. We're going to see a lot of weird shuffling around. I think the game industry is in for a blow, and it's going to be different. It's going to be, God, it took me a while to get around to this point, but yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting situation. And if it if this blueprint system, like, I'm still learning more about it right now, but if I can go ahead and just like put together a game that's gameplay wise the complexity of something that's much larger, but only lacks the number of the breadth of content, but actually is still contains that level of quality and gameplay, that right there is a very strong implication that there's going to be a shift. Like, I'm not saying that I'm bringing on a shift. I'm saying that in general, because I'm definitely not the only guy right now. Like, there are a lot of me out there right now, and I'm sure some of you are listening to me talk, rambling right now, are probably hearing the same exact thing. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. I think I probably was talking for a little bit too long, but it was just, I don't know. I just decided that I wanted to kind of sort of chat about that for a little while and kind of get my ideas on it, and kind of want to see what other people are thinking about this as well. Like, is Unreal 4 going to pull the rug out of a lot of pull the rug or have a really huge effect on the game industry as a whole? And what do you think those effects are going to be? Like, or is it just going to be something that just sort of blows over? Am I just being dramatic? Like, or what does it mean when a guy like me can just throw together a first-person shooter in less than like maybe 4 months, 5 months? I can put together a game that is complicated. It's using all new mechanics that aren't really being done before, and I do it all completely on my own with some assets I buy off of the marketplace. And this is a first-person shooter. It's not just some like little Unity game, like some little tiny game. That's weird to me. That I don't think that's something that was necessarily really all that possible before in the past. At least not to this degree of ease. Like, we know that Counter-Strike is a really big first-person shooter, and it was done in pretty much that exact same way that I'm describing, but that was way harder to do. Like, that same person, the guy who put together Counter-Strike, had this tool set. He could have done it faster. He could have done the same exact thing, but probably even better now. I mean, are we now looking at like a whole bunch of Counter-Strike-esque? When I say like these new first-person shooters, is there going to be like this big resurgence of arena shooters? Is this just is the cresting of this mostly just because the tools have gotten better? And what does that mean? So anyway, all right, I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you for watching. If you like what you hear, click like and subscribe. If you want to see more updates, stay tuned for more. Thank you.
The evil that satisfies your brain.